The wind cut like broken glass across the abandoned highway, slashing at Amelia's face as she tightened her thin coat around Lily and Mark. Their tiny bodies shivering violently against her chest, snow drifted in blinding waves, swallowing the world in white. Silence except for the trembling breaths of her children. They had been walking for hours, after being thrown out of the little rental cabin that was supposed to keep them safe for the season. But the owner had discovered they couldn't pay and demanded they leave immediately on Christmas Eve, with temperatures dropping below freezing and not a single soul willing to take them in. Amelia's lips were cracked, her fingers numb and her heartbeat slowed, beneath a creeping fog of exhaustion that whispered she should lie down, just for a moment. But Lily's small voice, weak and breaking, clung to her like the last thread of hope. "Mommy, I'm cold. I can't feel my toes," and Mark, too young to understand death, whimpered into her scarf. "Why is the sky hurting us?" Amelia swallowed the panic clawing up her throat and kept moving, forcing her legs to obey even as the night pressed in like a predator waiting to pounce. Her ex-husband's last words echoed like poison in her memory. "You and your charity cases can freeze for all I care. Don't come back. Don't call me again." She should have known he meant it. She should have known no one was coming. But she hadn't expected this, her breath turning to ice, her children stumbling, their skin turning dangerously pale. She had never been more afraid. When Lily's knees buckled and she fell face first into the snow, Amelia screamed and dropped beside her, clutching her daughter as Mark cried and tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, wake her up!" Amelia shook Lily gently, her heart exploding with dread when the little girl didn't respond immediately. "Baby, please." "Open your eyes. Lily, sweetheart, Mommy needs you to wake up." After a few agonizing seconds, Lily blinked, dazed, tears freezing on her lashes. But Amelia could see the truth. Her children were slipping toward hypothermia, and there was nowhere to go, nothing but endless cold and darkness swallowing the road. Amelia lifted both of them in her arms, ignoring the fiery pain ripping through her muscles, and stumbled forward. She whispered prayers she hardly believed anymore, begging the universe for one last miracle. But the storm grew harsher, the sky darker, their hope thinner. Then through the roaring wind, she saw it, faint glowing lights flickering through the trees, moving slow and steady. A truck, a large one, headlights slicing through the blizzard like salvation. Amelia stepped into the road, shaking uncontrollably, waving one frozen hand even though she could barely lift it. The truck slowed, stopped, and from the driver's seat stepped a tall man wearing a heavy ranch coat and dusted cowboy hat, snow clinging to his shoulders like frost on steel. His voice cut through the storm, deep and sharp with shock and something dangerously close to fear. "Good God. Ma'am, what are you doing out here with kids? In this weather?" She tried to speak but only managed a broken sound as her knees buckled under the weight of the children. The man lunged forward, catching Lily and Mark before they hit the ground, his gloved hands trembling as he felt how cold they were. "They're freezing," he muttered, horrified. "You're all freezing." Amelia stared at him through blurred vision, her lips struggling to form a reply before her strength gave out. "Please, help. I can't." Her world tilted sideways and went black. When Amelia woke, she expected darkness, the cold, the storm, but warm air brushed her face. A fireplace crackled nearby, and soft blankets cocooned her entire body. She whipped upright, dizzy, frantic. "My kids, where are they?" "Right here," a deep voice said behind her. She turned sharply and gasped. The man from the storm stood in the doorway, tall and broad-shouldered, his silver-streaked dark hair messy from the wind, his blue eyes piercing yet gentle. He pointed to the sofa beside her where Lily and Mark lay bundled tightly, their cheeks flushed with returning warmth. "They're safe," he assured. "You all are." Amelia sagged with relief, tears flooding her eyes. "Thank you. I don't know who you are, but thank you for saving." "Name's Cole Warren," he said simply. "This is my ranch." She stared around the enormous cabin-like living room with its wooden beams, leather furniture, and the scent of pine and firewood filling the air. Everything looked expensive, cared for, stable. Everything her life had not been for years. Cole studied her with a seriousness that sent heat crawling across her skin. "You shouldn't have been out there. You and those kids. You were minutes away from dying." Amelia swallowed hard, her voice small. "We had nowhere else to go." He asked her, softly but firmly, to tell him exactly what happened. And she did. Every ugly detail, every abandonment, every betrayal, every moment of humiliation. She expected judgment, pity, maybe skepticism, but Cole's jaw tightened, and something dark and protective flashed in his eyes. "No one should be left to die on Christmas," he said, his voice low with conviction. "Especially not a mother and her babies." Her heart twisted painfully. I never meant for them to be hurt." But he lifted one hand gently. "I know you did everything you could. Anyone can see that?" She turned away as tears threatened again, ashamed of how desperately she wanted to believe him. Cole walked closer, each step measured, almost hesitant. "Look at me," he said quietly. She did, and the expression on his face stole her breath, deadly serious, impossibly gentle. "You're safe now," he murmured. "All of you. As long as you're under my roof, no one will hurt you again." Amelia trembled, unable to form words. Cole reached out slowly, like he feared she might flinch, and touched her shoulder with warm fingers that grounded her like an anchor in stormy water. Then he leaned in just enough that she felt the warmth of his breath against her ear when he whispered, almost like a vow, "Come home with me." Her pulse thundered in her veins. He was offering them everything she'd lost: safety, warmth, stability, a future. But she didn't know him, didn't know why he cared, didn't know if she could trust any man again. Still, she couldn't deny the truth. He had saved their lives. And the way he looked at her wasn't hunger, pity, or possession. It was something deeper, something she hadn't seen in years, something she wasn't sure she deserved. But the storm had nearly killed them. Her children needed warmth, shelter, protection, and somehow she sensed that Cole Warren was not a man who made empty promises. She whispered shakily, Why would you do this for us? You don't even know us." Cole exhaled slowly, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her breath hitch. "Because no one saved my mother when she needed help. And I'll never let that happen to anyone ever again." For the next 2 days, Amelia lived in a strange daze, drifting between disbelief and overwhelming gratitude. Cole's ranch was enormous, rolling snowy fields, wide fences stretching toward the horizon, horses sheltered in warm stables, and a house big enough to swallow every home she'd ever lived in combined. Yet despite its size, the place felt strangely alive, held together by warmth rather than wealth. And Cole himself was nothing like she expected a millionaire rancher to be. He was quiet, disciplined, almost brooding at times, but fiercely attentive to Lily and Mark, checking their temperatures, bringing them hot cocoa, covering them in blankets without being asked. He never pushed, never pressed, never acted like he expected something in return for helping them. That alone unsettled Amelia more than anything. Men always wanted something, but on Christmas morning, when the first shy sunlight spilled over the snow, her son toddled over to Cole with wide eyes and whispered, "Are you Santa?" Cole froze, blinked, then laughed, a deep, warm, breathtaking sound Amelia had never heard from him before. "Not quite, little man," he said, scooping Mark up effortlessly. "But I can try." He had bought them gifts. Real gifts, wrapped, ribboned, waiting by the tree. Amelia's heart clenched as the children shrieked with joy, tearing paper, hugging toys with trembling excitement. She turned to Cole, her voice barely steady. "You didn't have to." He met her gaze seriously. "They deserved a Christmas. And me?" she whispered before she could stop herself. He hesitated, looked at her with a depth that made her knees weaken. "You deserved a miracle." She looked away quickly, overwhelmed, but Cole stepped closer, his voice quieter. "You're allowed good things, Amelia." She shook her head, her throat tight. "Not after everything I've done wrong." "You didn't fail," he said firmly. "Life failed you." His words hit her like a blow, but they also healed. That night after the kids fell asleep, Amelia stepped onto the porch to breathe. The sky glittered with stars, cold and infinite. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering slightly, less from the temperature, more from the storm inside her chest. She heard footsteps behind her. Cole's. He didn't speak at first, just stood beside her, his presence steady as the earth beneath them. Finally, he murmured, "I'm glad you stayed." "I didn't have many choices," she whispered, ashamed. "Yeah," he admitted softly. "But you still could have run." "People do." She turned her face toward him. "Why do you keep helping us?" His jaw worked like he was wrestling with something he wasn't used to saying aloud. "Because I can't stand watching people suffer. Because I've got more rooms than I know what to do with. Because those kids look at me like I matter. He paused, then added quieter. And because when I found you in that snow, something in me snapped. Her breath caught. Snapped. I saw my mother, he said, voice rough. I saw her face in yours. Saw myself in your kids. Saw everything I couldn't save back then. A tear slipped down Amelia's cheek. Cole, don't, he said, stepping closer. Don't thank me. Don't apologize, just stay. She hesitated. For how long? His eyes burned into hers. As long as you need. The world around her went silent except for her heart pounding wildly. She had been unwanted, discarded, abandoned by the man who promised to love her. She had been treated like she and her children were burdens, but Cole looked at her like she was something infinitely precious. I don't know if I can trust again, she admitted, her voice breaking. Then let me earn it, he said simply. Day by day, no pressure, no rush. She trembled, not from cold, but from the terrifying possibility that this home, this warmth, this man might be real. Cole reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and brushed his thumb gently across her tear-streaked cheek. I won't let anything happen to you, or to them. His touch felt like fire and safety all at once. Cole, I'm afraid. So am I, he confessed. But sometimes, the things that scare us are exactly the things that save us. She didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was fate. But suddenly his forehead rested against hers, breath mingling in the cold night air, his hands cradling her face as if she were something fragile he refused to let break again. You don't owe me anything, he whispered. You don't have to become anything for me, just let me be here. She closed her eyes, letting herself feel the truth of his words, and for the first time in years she let herself hope, let herself want, let herself imagine. A life not built on survival but on something deeper, something that felt terrifyingly like love. She leaned into him, slowly, cautiously, but undeniably. His breath shuddered softly as he whispered, Come home with me, Amelia. Not because you're lost, but because you belong. Her heart cracked open, full and aching and hopeful. She whispered back, then, I will. And when his arms wrapped around her, strong and warm against the biting winter air, Amelia knew her life had changed forever. The storm that tried to kill them had brought them here into a warmth, stronger than fire, deeper than fear, and more miraculous than Christmas itself. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone. She felt home.